Good evening, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Hingham's annual Candidates Night. My name is Elizabeth Danis, and on behalf of the League, I would like to thank the voters, all of you, for attending this educational evening. I would also like to thank the candidates who are participating this evening. We appreciate you taking the time to help voters make informed decisions on Election Day. Finally, our League would like to thank League member Chris Wilk, who organizes this event each year, and our moderator, Elizabeth Foster Nolan. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not support candidates or political parties. However, we do advocate on public policy after research, study, and consensus. Because of our nonpartisan position, we must adhere to certain guidelines when hosting our candidate forums. In contested races, we are not allowed to ask questions of a candidate if their opponent is not present. Our moderator may not be a member of our league or a Hingham resident. We do not allow any type of outside recording, as videos may be edited and not represent the actual proceedings. This evening can be viewed in its entirety on our league's website and along with the recording of the 2019 warrant review. We address as many questions as time allows and will refrain them if they are attacking in nature or appear biased. We hope you find the forum helpful, and we will see you at the polls on April the 27th. We ask that you now please silence your cell phones as a courtesy. And now I would like to ask our moderator, Elizabeth Noonan Foster, to come forward.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Welcome, everyone. I feel like it's my annual trek back to my hometown to come here every April, and I'm very happy to do this for the League of Women Voters of Hingham. I'm a member at large for the Massachusetts League of Women Voters and have been trained as a moderator through the League of Women Voters. So, as we do every year, we're just going to start by explaining the procedures for the forum. The candidates are familiar with these, but for the audience, just to get an understanding of what will be happening. This evening, we have two groups of races. We have those which are uncontested and those which are contested. For the uncontested race, you will see we will have 3 at a time. Those individuals come up, and they will be giving 2 minutes to give a statement to the group. Because Ryan Lynch is unable to attend, I will actually be reading a statement that he sent to the League. There will not be any questions for any of these candidates. After that, we will move on to the 3 races for contested races. They will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. There will be questions that will be 1 minute, and then they will have a 1-minute closing statement. There is no rebuttal time during this because this is an informational and educational forum and not a debate. Opening statements will be done in the order in which each candidate appears on the ballot. The order of questions was done by a lottery for who begins, and then we will rotate the questions, and I will then say to the candidates, if I screw up, please make sure that I get you in the right order. And closing statements are done in the reverse order of the opening statements. Candidates, timekeepers are in the front row. They are important. You all know them. They will prompt you when you get close to the end of your time, and then they will have a red card for a stop. Please stop at that time. If you don't, I will just say thank you, and we will move on. Personal references are out of order. And as discussed, there is a camera in the back room, and this will be broadcast, and the times will be listed in the Hingham Journal next week, and it will also as Elizabeth said, be up on the League's website. There is no audio, video, or live streaming of, we're moving into a new age, of the forum this evening. We also ask that you remain quiet throughout the forum, no clapping or any verbal cues, anything with the exception that after the closing statements, you can clap for all the candidates. No campaign literature, buttons, anything is allowed inside this room. There is a place outside where the candidates have been told that they can put their information. There were note cards outside. If anybody filled out a note card for a question, just pass it down and we will have them reviewed to see if we can add them, but there was solicitation for questions earlier. So, without further ado, we would like to start the forum, and we will start with the candidates for the uncontested races, and that is for Selectman, Joseph Fisher. For the Board of Assessors, Chrissy Roberts. Board of Health, Kirk Schulz. And your name tag should be there, so. And we will start with you, Mr. Freeman, for a 2-minute statement. Fisher, sorry. See, I told you.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Hingham for inviting me to attend this forum for candidates. A little bit about myself. I am a lawyer and business owner. My wife, Laura, and I moved to Hingham in 1992. Our children, Rebecca and Benjamin, both graduated from Hingham High School. They went on to college, and now they are both working in Boston. My mother, Mildred Fisher, who will be turning 95 next month, is currently living at Linden Ponds. My first involvement with town government was my appointment by Tom O'Donnell, who was the town moderator at the time, to the Long Range Waste Disposal and Recycling Committee. That committee is now known as Cleaner, Greener Hingham, but in the 90s, it was referred to as the Dump Committee. From there, I moved on to serve on the Conservation Commission for 6 years. Currently, I am the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Last week, when someone asked me how long I had served on the ZBA, I responded 9 years. However, today, I checked the records at the zoning office, and it turns out that this is my 12th year on the ZBA. So now, if anyone asks me why I am running for Board of Selectmen, I say it's the only way I know to get off of the zoning board. But more seriously, my interest in serving as a selectman arises from one of the most important functions of the Board of Selectmen, which is to hold public hearings on important town issues. During my time on the ZBA, I've conducted numerous hearings, and at each meeting, I make sure that the views and opinions of members of our community are listened to and taken very seriously. I can assure you that not everyone who appeared before the ZBA got the zoning relief that they asked for, but I can also assure you that everyone left that meeting knowing that their opinions and views were heard. I am looking forward to serving on the Board of Selectmen, and I would be honored. I look forward to getting your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts.
Hi, everybody. My name's Chrissy Roberts, and I am running for re-election to the Board of Assessors. I wish I could say I was being green by using my phone, but really I couldn't get my printer to work, and I didn't trust myself to remember my remarks. Yes, I was just here last year, and no, the terms are not for 1 year. I was finishing someone else's term, and now I will serve a full 3-year term going forward. And I'm happy to do so because I have so much to learn. I feel like I'm just getting started. And after all, I believe Greg Hall, my colleague on the board, has served for 33 years, right, Al? And so we have a lot of catching up to do. I've enjoyed learning about another part of town government, learning about valuations, and our role as a piece of the town's finance puzzle. But what I've enjoyed the most is definitely getting to know more town employees. I am consistently impressed by the level of talent and dedication that we have in our officials and our volunteers. And this is definitely as true in the assessor's office as it is anywhere else in town hall. Thank you for electing me, and I humbly ask for your vote on April 27th.
Thank you. Mr. Schultz.
Yep. I'll be the greenest. I'll just make it up. My name is Kirk Schulz. Running for re-election to the Hingham Board of Health. I've been there 15 years so far, a number of terms. You know, the Board of Health is quite important. We do a couple of things. We provide services to the patrons and the residents of the town relative to public health type of issues. Screening for skin cancer, let's say, and we also had just hired a new individual for our hoarding task force. In addition to those clinical elements, we monitor the environment and the health of the community. And probably the largest thing we do is to regulate and approve septic systems, because you know one of the most significant things that can happen within a community is to have septic contaminants get into the water supply. And so protecting the water supply is integral to the Board of Health, something that I've been doing prior to the Board of Health, where I've been on the Hingham Water Supply Committee since 2002, prior to getting onto the Board of Health. So I appreciate being on the board. I really enjoy it. You know, I was born here in Hingham, and I'd love to have you vote for me at the upcoming election, and I'll do everything I can to make sure the town remains as wonderful and delightful as it is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the Municipal Light Board. Roger Freeman. The Planning Board, Kevin Ellis. And the Sewer Commission, Kirk Schulz. And we will start with Mr. Freeman for the Municipal Light Board.
I'm just getting my remarks up very quickly. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much to the League and the women voters here. I hold your organization in very high regard. The women all over the country are really making our democracy function more effectively by voter education and all of the efforts that you do. And my mother and grandmother were very involved in the League in Virginia. And so I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. Thank you to the other candidates that are here. It's great to see people out getting their message and point across. But most importantly, thank you to the citizens who've come to try to become better voters, better informed citizens to help make our town run better. I'm Roger Freeman. I'm running for the Light Board. I'm very proud to serve on the board with my fellow commissioners, helping to keep service quality high, keep rates affordable, and also for my own personal interest, try to make Hingham greener, more renewable, and less carbon intensive. I'm proud to say that in the past year, Hingham became one of the first municipal utilities in the state to go carbon free, and we're going to keep pushing in that direction. I've got about a minute left, and I'd like to just say three quick things. Number one, I'm here to ask for your vote. Although I'm running unopposed, I don't take it for granted. I appreciate the opportunity to serve the town of Hingham and look forward to continuing to do so. Secondly, I'm here to learn about the other candidates and the messages that they're bringing to help. And third, I want to stand as an example of representing an organization that's run by the citizens of Hingham that's doing, I think, a very good job at meeting their mission to serve a public utility and a public interest. And I'm bringing it up in specific reference to the upcoming vote for the opportunity for Hingham to exercise its right and option to buy the water company. And I'm in support of that, and I think Hingham Light is a good example of an organization run by people here in Hingham, owned and controlled by the people of Hingham, and I would urge everyone to look to Hingham Light as an example of how an organization can be run for the benefit of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Kevin Ellis, and I'm honored to be here. I am standing for the planning board. Initially started out in an opposed position and now running unopposed, so a little more relieved, a little more relaxed, but happy to be here nonetheless. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I have lived in Hingham for about 9 years. We moved up here, my wife Sarah and a 6-week-old son Asher from Charlottesville, Virginia, where I went to the University of Virginia Law School. Asher now has another brother, Grayson, who's 7, and a younger sister, Eleanor, who's just about 2 years old. You know, I think like a lot of us, kind of from the moment I got here, I became very involved. I initially co-chaired a group in the Newcomers Club, and I joined the HDIC, which is the Hingham Development Industrial Commission. I've served 2 terms on that board. And now I'm active in the town scouting and youth sports, and was recently appointed to the fire station building committee, in this past session. Professionally, I'm a practicing attorney in Boston at Hemingway and Barnes, focusing on private client matters. A lot of my practice is just dealing with individuals and whatever their needs may be. And I think that's important because I think that conceptually that speaks a lot to the kind of the work the planning board does. A lot of what we're asked to do at work is to help to be good stewards for families, to help them protect their interests today and thinking forward to the next generation and the generation after that. And whether that's their wealth, their homes, just their family name, or just whatever it is that they have. And that really is what the planning board does. It sets forth a master plan for the town. It looks out for the town's interest, and then as people come before the board, it assesses the town's interest and the concerns of the neighbors and the concerns those people have. And it's not a right and wrong kind of question. It's how can we be better, and how can we protect the town's interest while generating a response for people that works. And so I look forward to serving. I humbly ask for your vote, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Schulz.
Don't know who I am. I'm Kirk Schulz, and I'm running for the Sewer Commission. There's so much overlap between the Board of Health and the Sewer Commission. They both deal with wastewater, one with disposal in the property, the other with collection and disposal at a distant site. And so we had a fair amount of turnover and discourse within the Sewer Commission, so I was asked to go in and kind of help out because of my experience on the Board of Health and just the fact I've been here for a while and kind of do well with the type of topics that the Sewer Commission does. The Sewer Commission is unique. We not only deal with wastewater, but we're also a business. And as you mentioned with the Aquarian vote coming up, the Sewer Commission is in that business of delivering services to customers, setting rates. I'm involved with all of that. With the water company acquisition, there are 3 elements, right? There's the price component, the affordability, there's the operations, and there's also the environment. I spoke about the environment previously, my position on the Board of Health, and a concern we've had for a long, long time about the availability of water and water quality. I can assure you from being on the Sewer Commission and the way that we're doing a great job in the Sewer Commission, we're providing services, that the town is well positioned and certainly can operate a water company. It's the same thing as far as water conveyance. Instead of water leaking into systems, which is Sewer Commission, with a water supply, it's water leaking out. And as far as the economics of it, there's nobody that I've seen that has said that the water acquisition is somehow not affordable for us to do. So I got a little bit of that in there in the time I had available. I appreciate the fact that I'm on both boards, and I just look forward to, again, continuing to work for the town, something that, as you know, we heard earlier, I love so dearly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we move on to the contested races, Ryan Lynch, who is a candidate for the Recreation Commission, is unavailable to join us this evening, and he did send the following statement in to the league. Unfortunately, I have a family commitment this evening, but I do appreciate the invite. I am pursuing a seat on the Recreation Commission in hopes of improving the fields around town used for youth sports. I grew up in Hingham, and when my wife and I started our family, we agreed this was the place to raise our children. As my children are now old enough to play the sports around town, I see the need for improvements to the fields our youth programs use and want to help in any way I can with that improvement. I want to be involved in the process to build upon the space we have and see what other options exist for the town. My experience in running the flag football program in town with over 500 kids participating has helped me prepare for this role and understand where there are areas for improvement in our recreation space around town. Thank you. We will now move on to our first contested race, which is for the moderator, with Michael Puzo and Megan Burr? Bure, thank you. And again, as you're getting settled, just a reminder, you will have an opening statement of 2 minutes, followed by questions we'll have a minute, and then your closing statement, which will be for a minute. Bless you. And the opening statements are done in the order in which you are on the ballot. And we will be starting with Mr. Puzo.
Thank you. I'm Mike Puzo. I currently serve as Hingham Town Moderator, and I'm standing for election for another term. My wife Christine and I moved here to Hingham in 1981. We have 4 adult children. Happily, 3 of them live in Hingham, and we have 3 grandchildren, all of whom live in Hingham. So we're more or less committed to this community. In terms of the position of moderator, and I realize I have a very brief time, I think we have to reflect upon the good fortune we have in this community to have self-governance. The fact that we govern ourselves, not through representatives, but each of us with voice and vote, is an essential element of Hingham's DNA. Obviously, in order to preside at the meeting, particularly the one that's coming up, requires a certain body of knowledge and ability to rule on matters that come before the meeting. Scope, I spend many hours, many days preparing for the meeting, going over the warrant, understanding the rules, understanding the quantum of vote, understanding the scope issues. It is not something that I can just roll out of bed and do. The other essential element of what the moderator does is to make appointments of citizens to various boards and committees. In that regard, I work closely, or the position requires the moderator to work closely with the selectmen. We often have joint appointing authority, but the selectmen strike that. The moderator does appoint all of the members of the advisory committee, the water supply committee, the personnel board, certain members of the capital outlay committee. It is a very substantial part of what I do, and the position requires it. It's a pleasure to do it, it's a privilege to do it, and I look forward to continuing.
Thank you.
My name is Megan Buer. A little bit about me. I've lived in Hingham since I was a child. I have an undergrad degree in history and a master's of library science. I'm a teacher who founded and runs a small private school located in Pembroke. Moderator is a very important position, but I also feel like it flies a little bit under the radar in Hingham. Somewhat ironically, because of course town meeting the moderator runs, and that's the most visible aspect of it. The appointments that Mr. Puzo was speaking about are also extremely important, and he listed them, so I can skip that part of my speech. In addition to what he listed, every year town meeting also vests the moderator with appointments for sort of short-term ad hoc committees, some of which do last for years and years, but are not necessarily the long-term ones like Capital Outlay and Advisory Committee. I'm running for moderator because I believe that I will be a strong voice for Hingham's residents. I will work to ensure that the very best volunteers are appointed. I also would like to make it my mission to increase civic participation and to educate our citizens about the importance of town government. I'd like to increase outreach to new residents in town, and to encourage community organizations to educate their members about how town government works, and even to prioritize town meeting in their own meeting schedules. I ask for your vote on April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now start with our questions, and the first question will go to you, Mr. Puzo. What is the moderator's role in encouraging active participation at town meeting?
Well, certainly in the run-up to town meeting, I make every effort, to drum up support. I don't think it's going to be difficult this year, but to ensure that citizens recognize the privilege that we have of self-governance, and they participate in the meeting. You'll see, whether it's in the Journal, now the Anchor, on the town's website, the town's social media platforms, my own Facebook account, saying, your town, your meeting. I can't say show up or shut up, but the fact is, where else can you actually control your own fate on these critical issues? Remember, the meeting is Hingham's legislature. That's what it is. It's direct democracy. You make the budget, you make the laws of the town, the zoning laws, land use, CPC, you do it all. And the moderator obviously tries to make the meeting efficient, understandable, and not interminable.
Thank you. Ms. Buer.
Yeah, I think that civic participation is incredibly important. New England town meetings are actually the oldest form of direct democracy in the world. We lasted longer than ancient Greece, than Athens, believe it or not. Hingham's first town meeting was a few weeks after the first settlers from Hingham, England came, and we still run every year. I think that increasing turnout is very important, and I think making people not afraid to actually speak up and ask their questions is important. And I think that's something that town meeting has always done a really good job of.
Thank you. Next question. What do you see as the most challenging aspects of the town moderator position? Ms. Buer.
Honestly, I think it's probably having to remain impartial. I mean, I have strong opinions about a wide range of things. As a layperson, even I'm elected to a couple boards in town and I can air my position. But I think that the moderator definitely has to be above all of that, and just in case there is any charges of bias, whether founded or not, that's something that people will look for. So for me, honestly, as a very opinionated person, that would be a challenge, but I hope I can manage.
Twofold answer. First and foremost, it's understanding the rules by which New England Town Meeting is governed, and this meeting in particular. If you go on the town's website, you'll see the bylaws of the town, and one must internalize those rules, understand quantum of vote, what is within the scope of an article, how to run a meeting, and so there's that part. The other part is obviously identifying and drawing out the most qualified citizens you can to serve on boards and committees. I mean, you have that ad that says, America runs on Duncan. Hingham runs on volunteers. And just the people who are up here with the exclusion of your speaker, the people we heard earlier, it's an incredible turnout of qualified people. And it's an essential part and a difficult part of getting really good people to say yes.
Thank you. Our last question is, how should the moderator determine when to terminate debate on a subject and call for a vote on the article? Mr. Puzo.
Prudently. I've been a lawyer for 42 years. It's akin to doing legal research. When you're doing legal research, you get to a point where you know it's time. It's time to write your memo or write your letter. And similarly, one of the things that I have done, and hopefully it's not too heavy-handed, is to say, when I'm getting to the point of saying, okay, people have heard a good debate, to say, is there any voter who wishes to speak and make a point that has not yet been made to the meeting? Because you don't need another Me Too. I agree with the previous speaker. And last year, somebody moved for the previous question, and I declined to accept it, because it's a matter of judgment. This position is all about judgment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's important to listen to all voices. I also think that it's important to sort of realize when there's an echo chamber just repeating the same things over and over again. Town meeting can run late. People want to get home. But we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. I'm not actually sure I can have a better answer than that. It really is just a judgment call, and it's something that I experience all the time when I teach in a classroom. It's the same thing, everybody wants to have the right answer, even if the right answer has already been said. And you want to encourage them to keep raising their hand, to keep having the right answer, but it is also time to move on to other things.
Thank you.
Speaking of which.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to closing statements.
Oh.
Unless, of course, you said everything you want to say. We'll now move on to a 1-minute closing statement for each of you, starting with you, Ms. Buer.
I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidates forum. I'd like to thank everybody for turning out tonight. I know that there's a lot of things going on in town. I know that there's a lot of different forums that you guys can choose from. Town moderator is such an important position. I think that it's really important that people run for it. This is, I believe, the third time in almost 60 years that it's actually been contested. And I'm honored that so many people were willing to sign for me, have sent me messages of support. And I just want to say thank you, and please consider voting for me on April 27th. Thank you.
Mr. Puzo.
Thanks. I'll end effectively where I started, which is the privilege we have in this town of self-governance should never be taken for granted. You know, there are towns, I mean, Hingham is unusually large to have open town meeting. And I believe strongly that the fact that you all are here tonight is evidence of how seriously we take this. And all of the tumult we may see on Beacon Hill or in Washington, we don't see here. We don't see it because we don't have political parties. I don't run as a member of the X party or the Y party. The volunteers show up because they want to do good things for their hometown. One of the good things that you can do is to offer service. If you haven't had an opportunity to serve, or you haven't had an opportunity of late, I exhort you to take on these positions. I was talking to a member of ADCOM tonight that I had to do a little arm twisting to get her to agree. And she said, I've made new friends. I'm so enjoying it. It is a lot of work, but it's meaningful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now be moving on for the Housing Authority, Robert Keys and Janine Su Chucky. We should put the names on the back also so you know where you're supposed to sit. Again, just to remind you, you have a 2-minute opening statement followed by questions that you will have a minute for, and then followed by a closing statement, which will also be a minute. And we will start with the opening statements in the order that you are on the ballot, which means we will start with Mr. Keys.
Hi, I'm Bob Keys. I've been a resident of Hingham for 53 years. Originally from South Boston, where my claim to fame was I went to school with Whitey Bulger. I'm seeking re-election on the Housing Authority to carry my 26 years successful record dedicated to the authority's mission, and that's to provide affordable, safe, decent housing to veterans and elderly and low-income families. I believe we've done so. If you've gone through Dexter Park, and I wish you'd take a ride up there, I think the park really looks good. We have 110 residents up there. They're living happily, they're safe, and the only problem is we have a waiting list of 500. So we need a lot more housing in Hingham, and we don't have it. And I'd like to stay on the board to provide it. I think we can do it if we have the opportunity at a later date. That's about it. I think I've been up there for a long time. I know what, I know how it operates, and I think we've done a good job so far. I'd like to continue. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ms. Su Chucky.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Hi, my name is Janine Su Chucky, and I'm running as a candidate for the Housing Authority. I feel my life experiences and history of commitment to Hingham have prepared me to advocate for well-maintained housing for our residents. A little bit about me. I was born, raised, and educated in Hingham, and I live here now with my husband, my 2 sons, and my mother, who's an active senior in our community. Living with my mom, I've seen the challenges that some of our Hingham seniors face. After college, I took my business management degree to work in a position negotiating and bargaining for New England Verizon sales workers at IBEW. During my 15 years at Verizon, I worked on various committees and served as a chief union steward. After Verizon, I parlayed my experience into public service, working on joint projects with multiple boards and departments throughout Hingham. Interdepartmental communications is not always a top priority, but I think it should be. In small towns especially, communication is an important and effective tool in our government. I communicate effectively now as chairman of the Cultural Council and also as a veteran, vice chair and public affairs officer of the town's Veterans Council. I know my deep affection for Hingham will carry over into any position I hold. My word is my bond, and I will always try to do what's honorable. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the questions, and again, you have 1 minute to answer each question. We will start the questions with Mr. Keys. How might the Housing Authority and the Hingham Affordable Housing Trust work together to increase affordable housing in Hingham?
Well, the Affordable Trust has a great deal of money. They have over $2 million in their budget. We don't have a great deal because we're limited to what we get in rentals. So we could work with them. I'd like to develop Beale Street. We own a lot of property up there. We have the plans to put the citizen, the fastest growing population in town is over 65, and what they wanted was affordable rental units. And we have the plans to draw up 80 units up at Beale Street right now. So if we can get the Affordable Hingham Trust to work with us and provide some money, we could start building them.
So part of my diligence for thinking about putting my name in the hat, throwing my hat in the ring. I'm better at public service than I am at public speaking, I promise you that. I met with a few of the current members of the Affordable Housing Trust as well as a few of the past members as well. And one of the things that they said to me is that they don't feel that the boards are communicating as effectively as they could be, and they would like to have a better involvement with the Housing Authority, and that's something that I would plan to bring to the table if elected.
Thank you. How might the Housing Authority work with other town agencies to reliably provide services to the residents of Thaxter Park? Ms. Su Chucky.
So, Thaxter Park residents, as well as other residents that fall under the genre of the Hingham Housing Authority, do need to work with other departments. Mr. Schulz mentioned hoarding. We do have residents that have hoarding issues. We have residents that are veterans and are unaware of programs that are available to them. We have disabled seniors that are unaware of some of the programs that are available to them. So I think it's important that the communication between the different departments in the town work for the best interest of the residents and not the opposite.
Mr. Keys.
Well, we work with the Board of Health. They're up there all the time. We have nurses. We have the South Shore Senior Center sending up help to the disabled. We work well with the other departments in the town and those outside the town. So I think they're getting all the services they need up at the Veterans Agent works with all our veterans. We don't have that many. We have 6 veterans up there, but he works with them. And I think we're getting along with, with other departments and working well with the tenants up there.
Thank you. Our next question. As discussed in an article in the Hingham Journal on April 4th, in February of this year, the Board of Selectmen voted to sue the Housing Authority for failing to transfer a piece of land on Beale Street the town says it acquired in a 2001 agreement between the Housing Authority and the town. The Housing Authority recently voted against the transfer of the land to the town. What steps would you propose be taken to resolve this issue? Mr. Keys.
Well, we met recently with the DACD. It's actually they control our development and all the land we have. At one time, when we purchased the land on Beale Street, we didn't have the money. They lent us the funds to buy the land. So therefore, they control it now. We met with them about 2 weeks ago, and they told us that there's no way that we can transfer, lease, or in any way sell the land without their permission. And if we do not have their permission how to transfer or lease the land.
I have a difference of opinion than Mr. Keys. I believe that the will of the people speaks first, and that no matter public opinion, or personal opinion, I should say, you need to follow what has been set forth in a vote. And the vote at the 2001 town meeting dictated how this should be handled, and that's my position on it, is I support that.
Thank you. Our last question for both of you is, given the turnover on the Housing Authority in recent years, what ideas do you have to bring greater stability to the board? Ms. Su Chucky.
Okay, so I am a veteran, and I'm also that A-type Virgo personality, so I like organization. And I have noticed that In my opinion, that is an element that's missing from the meetings at the Housing Authority. Currently, there's 7 months of minutes missing on the town's website. The information on the town's website, which is what people would go to look for information, is outdated. And I feel that these things are not being run in the best interest of the public. I feel like transparency is very important, and I think I am the candidate to bring those things to the table. Thank you.
Mr. Keys.
Well, we had, over the past 5 years, we had 6 members run for the office. They were elected with 5-year terms. They all dropped out after 1, 2, or 3 years. A lot of replacement, a lot of newcomers, and you really can't, it's difficult to run the authority with 3 new people. It really is difficult because they're not up to date with what's going on up there, and a lot of rules and regulations of the housing authority. So we had a problem with turnover, and 2 of them were attorneys. They joined, they were elected, one lasted a year, the other lasted 2 years. So we had a lot of turnover.
Thank you. We will now move on to your closing statements. Again, just a reminder, you have 1 minute each, and we will start with Ms. Su Chucky.
So I didn't prepare a closing statement, so with my time, I just will be brief and say thank you again for all the volunteers in this room for stepping forward. It's never easy to put your name out for an elected position, as I'm learning. I had no problem volunteering and being appointed to boards. This is a new experience for me. I have enjoyed all the other candidates that are on other positions that I've had a chance to get to know a little bit through this process. And I'm just grateful to be part of this town and continued my service to the town. So I ask you for your vote on the 27th, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Keys.
Given my 26 years on the authority, I can offer invaluable institutional knowledge and experience critical to the success of the authority's mission. So please help me help the unfortunate. I'm up to the task and respectfully ask for your help on 27th. We'd like to get some of those 500 people in housing. And, they come to our office at least 2 a day, every day. People living in Hingham tell us they can't afford to live in Hingham any longer, so they're really desperate. People who work at Stop and Shop and the restaurants, they're coming in every day, and if you had to listen to them, you would feel you have to have pity for them. They're desperate.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you joining us this evening. We will now move on to our last contested race, which is school committee. Mr. De Silva, Ms. O'Reilly, Ms. Correnti, and Mr. Ross. Yeah, and then if we can always ask that at the end. Yes, we'll do. This will be one. Good evening. So, quick reminder, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute. And we will start with the opening statements. And we are, again, doing them in the order in which you are on the ballot and in which you are sitting. So it makes it easier for me and for you, starting with Mr. De Silva.
Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank God for allowing us this opportunity to be here this evening. Secondly, I would like to thank the League of Women's Voters for hosting this important forum. And a huge thank you to you, the audience, and those at home watching us. 3 years ago, voters elected me to the school committee. I would like to continue for 3 more years. And I do hope that you will re-elect me so I may continue to serve the Hingham community and its students and help the town maintain its excellent education system. I'm proud of the work of the school committee has accomplished during my first term. I am married. My wife Rita is here with me. We are the proud parents of 2 graduates of the Hingham Public Schools. I am a son of 2 public servants. My father was a policeman, and my mother was a teacher and a principal of an elementary school. For the last decade, I have been working for the state as a state auditor. My job is to show up at an employer site and review the books unbiasedly. I came to the school committee, and one of the things that I said I would do is to listen to the parents, listen to the students, and to the teachers. And I did exactly that. I believe I have not taken your votes for granted. I want to be reelected. I'm working very hard out there right now campaigning, and I do hope that you please consider me for one of the 3 votes. And again, for one of your 3 votes, I'm not asking you to vote just for me. I'm not selfish, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Reilly.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this annual Candidates Forum. My name is Liza O'Reilly, and I'm running for re-election to the Hingham School Committee. I'm ready for another term because I love the work and still feel energized to contribute. That said, I am proud to share several achievements that I played a key role in delivering this term. First, establishing the 5-year financial vision statement as a long-term planning tool for the school committee and to communicate our priorities to town leaders. Next, executing a successful search process for Hingham's next superintendent with effective communications and participation from all stakeholders. Moving the town toward a solution for Foster School by initiating the SOI process and securing support from the Selectmen and Advisory Committee to reopen the 2017 warrant with the article to establish the School Building Committee. Addressing the challenges faced by special education students and parents and facilitating opportunities to find solutions. Finally, at the request of my fellow committee members, I served 2 years as chair and am currently vice chair, creating a collegial committee focused on the well-being of students, staff, parents, and the community. I am excited about our new superintendent, Dr. Paul Austin, coming to Hingham, but it will mean change for the schools and the town. A key reason I am running for re-election is to contribute my experience to ensure a smooth transition. I am also determined to find a solution for Foster School. As your elected school committee member, I will continue to focus on educational excellence and innovation for all students, to practice effective management and fiscally responsible planning, and to respect the town meeting process and the taxpayer. There is no bigger investment our town makes than in our public schools. We deserve a big return. I ask for your support and vote on April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Correnti.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Correnti, but my friends know me as Ness. Like many, my husband Joe and I moved to Hingham 15 years ago for its excellent public school system. We are both graduates of our local public school. I grew up with a single working mother. As a result, my siblings and I spent every day at the local Boys and Girls Club. It's these experiences that taught me to play, explore, learn, grow, and lead. It taught me to be grateful and instilled in me the desire to continue to be involved and give back to our schools and families. We now have 3 children, 2 at Plymouth River Elementary and 1 at the middle school. I began volunteering when my oldest child was at Wilder Nursery School and have not stopped since. Over the last decade, I have been either a board member or treasurer at Wilder and then at PRS. And more recently, I have also devoted my time to programs that address the physical and social well-being of children. I've implemented and continue to run before and after school programs that emphasize the benefits of exercise and reducing stress and anxiety in our kids. 4 out of 5 mornings each week, and you'll find me at PRS running the kids around to get their minds and bodies ready for learning. And I absolutely love it. If elected, I would like to build on these experiences for more of our children in our district, as stress and anxiety continue to be a very real challenge for our students. These enrichment programs help develop the skills, values, attitudes, and behaviors necessary to succeed in life. Professionally, I'm a CPA, and I've been working as an accountant for over 22 years. I also own and run 2 small businesses. For a small business owner, cash is king. I've had years of experience managing that while continuing to grow the businesses in a positive manner. I've been attending school committee meetings and watching the recordings, and I believe we can improve the budgeting process for our schools. We know that there are large expenditures on the horizon, such as Foster School. I will make sure your tax dollars are being allocated in a fiscally responsible way. Thank you.
Mr. Ross.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having this in preparation for this meeting. I've watched the last few on tape, so thank you for your participation in our town election. I would also like to thank Eileen for turning the air conditioning on. My name is Joshua Ross. I am running for school committee. I have lived in Hingham for about 13 years with my wife Sarah. We have 2 children, Noah, who is just turned 14 in 8th grade, and Lily, who is just about to turn 12 in 6th grade. I also run a business in town. I am a local photographer, and having just thought about it, I photograph a lot of the youth sports in town and a lot of families and a lot of school events, so I am around the kids a lot. I started about 5 years ago, as a room parent in foster for my daughter's 2nd grade class, and then on to her 4th grade class, and then last 2 years ago was the chair of the 5th grade committee at foster. At the same time, I decided to go to a PTO meeting at Hingham Middle School, and I walked out the president. I am not allowed to go to any more meetings without my wife's approval. And in doing so, I've had the privilege of attending the school committee meetings and being involved in all-town PTO, and that led me to some pretty important involvement in the superintendent search last year, which I'm pretty proud of, which led me here. I've realized that the role of school committee is really important. There's a lot of things that they do that affect a lot of children and families in town, and I believe that I'm in a unique position to help on that, and I would appreciate your vote on April 27th.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our questions, for which you have a 1-minute answer. And just to confuse things a little bit, by the lottery, we are starting with Ms. Correnti with the first question, and then we will be rotating. Your first question is, many families in town have both parents working and need to use the Kids in Action program. Over the past 5 years, we have heard more and more parents complaining about how they have been unable to get a spot in the Kids in Action program. It fills up, there's no room. This has not been rectified even with increasing enrollment in the schools. If elected, how will you address this issue?
Thank you. I can appreciate the Kids in Action program. My kids attended and they loved it, and I can appreciate the frustration of trying to find childcare, difficult getting into Boston, in and out, if you work in town. I would work with the administration right now. I know Kathy, who runs the program, and would talk to her about any alternatives as far as where it could be placed. I know that there's some difficulty now as far as where the kids are. I know that there's two different schools that the kids are at, which can be difficult when you're trying to pick up your kids for a working parent, trying to get across town. On Main Street in particular is really difficult. So sometimes it's a stress to try to get both kids at the multiple schools. So continue to just talk to the people and find different solutions.
Mr. Ross.
Thank you. I myself also had, both my kids were in Kids in Action. We are in the foster district, and they were all the way down in South School. So we would have to run from the boat down to South School and come back. And I know there's only 2 schools that do it. We loved it. I think it is an absolutely fabulous program. I know that there's an issue in getting the kids to the schools because of the time, and we only have a certain amount of buses. That being said, there has to be a way, if there's a need and a want, that we can make it happen. We have 6 schools. We clearly have the space. We just need to make the plan and get clearly the faculty, because it does pay for itself. So it's not a monetary thing. It's just a will to do it, which I will be happy to push forward.
Mr. De Silva.
I'm glad to hear that there is a huge demand for the services. Obviously, the price has a lot to do with that, because where a private institution is charging over $10,000 for daycare, we were charging 1/3 of that. So I wish I could, find more resources. Obviously, we have, the building at the school department where we need more offices. We don't have that. A lot of the teachers, and principals, they don't have a lot of space on their schools. Hopefully, when it is time to address foster, perhaps we can consider that. I think that would be the appropriate moment to consider, allocating space for more children, perhaps. But with that, and the good thing I like about this program is that the money collected from the parents essentially pays for the program. It's an offset. So it's self-funded, and why not?
Thank you. Ms. O'Reilly.
I actually heard about this issue while I was campaigning with people, and I've known the Kids in Action program is a self-run program, and it was on my list of what to do next. There's no reason why we can't explore expanding the program as long as we get the commitments from the parents that they take their spot and they do it. But we should look at it. We have many more working parents, two parents in our system, and that is also something we need to pay more attention to, of all of our programs, of how we accommodate working parents and appreciate evening sessions or being flexible with times. That's the reality of living in this community now.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Ross. Do you think the technology curriculum for grades K through 12 in the Hingham Public Schools is appropriate for our students? If yes, please state specific strategies that are presently in place. If no, please state ideas that would make the curriculum more relevant in today's world.
Doozy, thank you. Technology. So I've been fortunate enough to have kids in the school system now so my son's in 8th grade, so 9 years from K through 8. And so it has changed drastically from when he started to now. I even see it with my youngest, who's only 2 years apart, for things like it's STEM. So if we go to the STEM, 6th grade STEM presentations, the difference between the way they use technology now and the way he did it just 2 years ago is astounding. They're doing editing and all this other stuff. Is it perfect? No. We could always use more technology, and one of the things we need to focus on is moving the technology budget from the capital improvement to the operating budget so that it's an everyday operation and not just a one-time capital improvement. Thank you.
Mr. De Silva.
Yes, the chairman of the long-range planning subcommittee, we just completed another budget overlooking, going over the capital budget, and it is true that we would love to have technology be part of the operating budget because obviously it takes a chunk of our capital budget. I am pleased with the technology as it is right now. We do provide our middle schools with Chromebooks through a great donation from the Hingham Education Foundation. We started a computer science program recently. I had the privilege of going to Foster and witnessed firsthand students from K to 5th grade showing us proudly how the system works and involved with coding and programming.
Ms. O'Reilly.
There are parts of our computer science program and technology that are excellent. There's other places we need to work on it. Thankfully, to the Hingham Ed Foundation, we had tremendous investment in our digital learning and computer science curriculum, which is a state mandate. We would not have been able to launch that program as well as we did without the Hingham Ed Foundation funding. Kindergarten through 5 is the focus of that. It's teaching the kids the basics of coding, and I couldn't even go on of all the things that they're doing. It's really incredible. In 6th through 8th, we were fortunate when we opened the new middle school to have one-to-one technology with the Chromebook initiative, and then we've been adding STEM programming and other things. That has, kids they live on their devices, but they're learning on it, and it's really excellent. Our high school, we need some help. We've introduced robotics. The school committee is talking about funding AP computer science for next year, but we don't have a device program in the high school.
Thank you. Ms. Correnti.
Thank you. I think, as mentioned, technology has changed over time. I like how the teachers are teaching with technology, the smart boards and everything that they have. It's the kids love it, and they love being able to touch everything. I've also seen all of the STEM-related technology that they have, at least at the PRS location, the little B-bots, and helping the kids figure out how to code as early as they do is amazing to me. Because of HEF, we were able to get the money that we need for the technology that the schools require, which is really important. What I wish we could see is, because they are doing so much more on technology, I wish we had a better typing class for the kids to learn how to type, because they're having to take their MCAS now as early as 3rd grade on computers, and they don't know how to type as efficiently as they could. So I wish we could enroll that in our school department. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with Mr. De Silva. Are there adequate support structures and services in place to address the increasing pressures that students face?
It's an area that can improve. We just hired a new director of student service, and she's working very hard with our assistant superintendent to address areas that we are finding challenges. So it is an area that is evolving, and I do believe that our teachers, our administrators, are doing the best that they can with the resource available. So it's an area that could improve.
Ms. O'Reilly.
We have support structures, but I don't believe we have enough. We've been asking over the years, with the adding to the budget of adding more guidance counselors, adding more adjustment counselors. We have been able to do that. Unfortunately, in today's society, there's never enough. It's a growing pressure of anxiety on students. But we're doing the best we can. And also in the NEASC accreditation recently with the high school, we were asked to improve adults that students have a relationship with, and that's a key focus now. So we're making progress on it, but it's very challenging in today's society for children with depression and anxiety, and unfortunately, but we will do the best to support all of them.
Thank you. Ms. Correnti.
I agree with everything. I think we always need some more support. I think this is where our kids are struggling the most. The stress and anxiety that they're dealing with these days is just, it's really sad. And we can't do enough for them. And from talking with some students from the high school, they are particularly concerned with the lack of accessibility to counselors. Just talking about having the right ones and having enough of them. So I would hope that we could put more towards that.
Mr. Ross.
Thank you. As it was said, we could always use more counselors, but after we met with the CPAC folks at their forum last night, I did a little research on sort of what we're doing as a town and what other folks are doing, because we hear a lot of things about other towns are doing things well, and so one of the things we want to do is, what are they doing so we could do it? And what I found is that there are other towns with the same or more students with the same amount of faculty and support, and spending the same or a little money. So it comes down to, are we using what we have in the right way? And so I think what we need to do is take a look at what we're spending and how we're using the assets that we have, and the teachers and the counselors. And if other towns are doing it, we can do it. And that's without adding more than what we already have, and really utilizing what we have right now. And then if we need more after that, we can take a look at it.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Ms. O'Reilly. Governor Baker recently signed into law an act to promote and enhance civic engagement. It introduces to the public school curriculum student-led civics projects in the middle and high school levels, with a Commonwealth Civics Challenge to showcase the 8th grade projects. The new law further requires the Secretary of State to promote youth membership on municipal committees and initiate a high school voter challenge to promote voter registration and turnout in this age group. What is the role of the school committee in supporting the intent of this mandate?
Well, we have endorsed all of the curriculum changes that have been implemented. We've also encouraged, in the 8th grade, they have a significant civics program where the students are going optional trip to Washington, D.C. And then there's also, for the students that stay here, that there's an extensive trip within Boston to expose them to civics. We have a student member representative on the school committee, and we encourage her participation, and we've explored other ways of involving the student council and through her in resolutions that we've passed and other encouragement. And we're in full support of having that civics curriculum in our schools and with our social studies department, and it's exciting to see the kids getting more involved.
Ms. Correnti.
I love that they're doing more with civics and teaching more. I think that is a step in the right direction. And I think the most important thing is to listen to the students, listen to the high school students in particular. They are well-versed, they're knowledgeable, they know the technology better than we do, and therefore they have access to information really fast. I was really encouraged when I saw that they were taking the day out of school after Parkland to protest the fact that they were wanting stronger gun laws and safety. So it's encouraging to see that kind of participation. I think we just need to listen to them because they have good ideas, and they're the ones who are going to be our up and coming leaders.
Well, I think you asked what was the role of the school committee in this, and clearly if it's a mandate, the role of the school committee is to follow the mandate. So whether or not it's funded or unfunded, we can talk about how we address that. But as far as the idea of civic engagement, I think it's great. My son is in 8th grade, so he has the opportunity to go on the trip, and because we were just at DC, he's actually doing the tour around Boston, and it actually sounds better than the DC trip, but don't tell anyone. But I also feel that it sort of starts in 8th grade, and we can look at starting it sooner. I feel like, and I may be a little biased because I'm at the middle school all the time, is that the middle school gets put in the middle. It's not elementary school and it's not high school, and so I try to advocate to do stuff at the middle school that they're doing at the high school a little bit earlier. And some of the things they're doing, and so this is, I think, one of the things where, instead of starting at 8th grade, maybe they can start stuff at 7th and even 6th grade for some of the kids.
Thank you. Mr. De Silva.
I believe the school committee plays a huge role on that. As a former chairman of the Hingham Democratic Town Committee, I have always actually encouraged voters' participation on the municipal level, especially because it's nonpartisan. And when I was elected to this position, I continue doing so. And I appreciate what the League of Women's Voters does at the school, registering, the seniors to get involved. So I would be, work with very, very hard to make sure that we are doing what the law says. But not only that we go to the governor and ask for the money, because as he's introducing new legislation, we need the money, right? The municipal, at the municipal level, we only have so much money, right? Recently, he passed a law. He made some monies available for safety and security. As a matter of fact, we are applying for that grant as well.
Thank you. For our last question, before closing statements, we'll end with an easy softball. What do you see as the best way to address the physical conditions at Foster School? Ms. Correnti.
Glad I get to go first. I think the best approach is to go and wait for what the state is going to provide, to see if they're going to provide us. 40% is a lot of money, so I'm hoping that we can move forward in December and we will be approved. After that, I think that we need to make some hard decisions here in town. I think Foster School is unsustainable the way that it is. Not having been there, I am now hearing the stories from people, and they're heartbreaking. The fact that kids are sitting in these horrible temperatures, 113-degree temperature rooms, and teachers are bringing in ice, and little boys are passing out on the ground. It's just I try to put myself in the kid's position, I try to put myself in the parent's position, where we come to this town for the school systems. We don't want the kids to have to sit in that kind of environment, and I don't think it's acceptable.
Mr. Ross.
The best way to address it is tear the thing down and build a new one. I was in the building for 8 years. I can tell you that is not an environment conducive to learning for kids who are in kindergarten through 5th, let alone any other age. But there is a process, and so we are going through the process. We will find out in December what our fate is, but in the meantime, I think we would do ourselves a disservice just to sit on our hands and wait and see what happens. I think we can start doing stuff now to prepare ourselves for one of two situations. One is that we're going to get accepted into the MSBA, and one is that we're not. And so whenever the day comes, the day after, we need to be ready to go.
Thank you. Mr. De Silva.
In 2017, where Foster was not being discussed, I brought to the forefront of the school committee the needs at Foster because I served on the school council. Although this was part of the master plan that expired in 2015, I really worked very hard to push that issue, and my fellow school committee members actually adopted as the school committee top priority. So as a result of that, we worked with the selectmen, the board of the advisory, and I want to thank them for that. We applied for the MSBA, not once, twice, we were denied. We are given a third try because obviously we don't want to put the carriage in front of the horse. We wanted to make sure that we show to the voters that we are fiscally responsible. We don't want to just go there and say we're going to do things without you approving it, because in the end, it's going to be money coming out of the pocket of everyone in this room and those at home. So I want to be fiscally responsible, understanding that the school is safe, and work with our building manager to get the quick fix in place, which I hope you also support a warrant article for $350,000. Thank you.
Ms. O'Reilly.
I'm going to echo what Carlos just said. As the first thing you can all do to help us address the physical conditions is approve the warrant article at town meeting this year for extraordinary maintenance expenses. This is until we find a final solution. We have some significant expenses to incur, and we do not want to impact the rest of our buildings by taking their capital money away from those. That's why we need this extra money. The next is we have submitted, or tomorrow we're submitting the SOI to the MSBA. We need the community to help us reach out to the MSBA and get the message to them of how critical the situation is, and we will be reaching out to you to ask for your support. Then, once we have a decision from the MSBA, one way or the other, we again need town meeting support to have the funds to provide a solution. We have to do this. This is a really critical situation for students, for staff, for the entire community. All of our students will be impacted if we lose Foster School.
Thank you. We will now move on to your closing statements. And again, these are in reverse order of opening statements. So we will start with you, Mr. Ross.
Thank you again. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight, and to all of you for taking time out of very busy schedule, and the viewers at home, and my fellow candidates. We are almost done. One more night. Going through this process, I think that I am a very uniquely positioned candidate, having built relationships not only through the school system, but through other town positions, such as the chair of the compressor station. I was part of the ever popular Citizens Police Academy, which I highly recommend, and also our local neighborhood. And I believe in order to succeed in this, you need to have relations across the board to communicate well, not only with your fellow members, but also the community. And again, I ask for your vote on April 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carenti.
I believe collaboration will be the key to success on the school committee. Collaboration with parents and the community so that your voices and concerns are always heard. Collaboration with Dr. Paul Austin as he transitions into the superintendent role and seeks to understand our community's long-standing values and history. And collaboration among school committee members. We each bring something different to the committee. I believe I bring something unique to the school committee with my accounting background, my involvement in improving physical and emotional well-being, as well as fresh perspective. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I have a history of showing that I listen, learn, and do my homework. If elected, I pledge to lead with integrity, fairness, and transparency. I would be honored to have one of your 3 votes on April 27th. Say yes to Ness. They made me
Thank
say
you.
that.
Ms. O'Reilly.
I am running to make our schools even better and prepare our children to be good citizens, lead happy and healthy lives, and become lifelong learners in whatever field they choose. Better schools provide more opportunity for all Hingham residents, not just our students and our families. The teachers and staff find fulfillment in their chosen careers. Homeowners retain value in our investments. AAA bond ratings are retained. Residents feel confident that the quality of our town is reflected in the quality of our schools. My husband and I have lived in Hingham for over 26 years and are raising 3 children who are blessed with different interests and learning styles. My personal experiences, coupled with my service to the town, offer a deep understanding of how the school district, local, state, and federal funding and regulations operate. I hope to continue my efforts to collaborate at all levels of the community to do what is best for Hingham and its students. I ask for your vote on April 27th.
Mr. De Silva.
Well, once again, thank you so much for participating. I would like to focus on 4 areas if re-elected. 1, ensuring that our superintendent that I help appoint to the position, select to the position, have a successful term in Hingham. Most important thing, he needs to be able to mentor our new leadership that we have at the schools, such as the assistant superintendent, principal at the high school, and assistant principal, principal and assistant principal at PRS. High school, we have a new athletic director. We also have a new director of student service. With my experience as a long-term contract negotiator, serving the contract negotiation in Hingham, the contract is on its 3rd and final year. Next year, we have to start all over again. The school committee can use my experience, and I hope you will vote for me on April 27th.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you all joining us this evening. I would now like to just close the forum by thanking all the candidates who were able to join us this evening for their participation in the democratic process, and to the Hingham League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event. Please remember to vote on Saturday, April 27th. The polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Encourage your friends and neighbors to vote. If you will be out of town for the election, contact the town clerk's office about obtaining an absentee ballot. Absentee ballots are available as of today in the town clerk's office. A link to the video for the forum will be posted on the League's website, and the forum will also be rebroadcast on Hingham's local cable channel up until the election. It will also be on their homepage. So please offer to give rides to friends or neighbors who may not be able to get to the polls for some reason. And we appreciate you joining us this evening. And as I have to say every year, please vote. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you.